This is I've got to tell you, this is a video that I've been looking for. God, I've been looking forward to making this video the last few days. Finally, I get the chance to get to my computer and get this off my chest. I want to talk. Wow, do I want to talk about this Atheism Plus thing that's come out, that's been conceived over at Free Thought Blogs. Free Thought Blog, God, Thunderfoot, you twat. You've got a lot to... Actually, I shouldn't really call him a twat, because apparently this is what I've been learning quite a bit the last few weeks, that's sexist. So you're not a twat, you're a... I don't know what you are, you're a prick. Because that's not sexist. Because of male privilege or something. It's very complicated, I don't understand it. You're a prick. And I just wish you'd not... I mean, I don't always get on with Thunderfoot, but this whole thing, I got involved and started reading these Free Thought blogs, and now I'm wound up about this Atheism Plus thing. I need to explain why I'm wound up, why I think it's a bad thing, and what I think is going on here. First point, because I see this as a hijacking of a term. And I don't buy this, oh, Atheism Plus is quite clearly differentiating itself from dictionary atheism, is what they call it, which actually means atheism, because we've put a plus sign on it. Because obviously nobody's going to get confused by that, are they? The average person out there that couldn't give a shit about any of this isn't going to get confused by any of that. They're not going to start to conflate these two things, are they? There's a lot of conflation going on. Richard Carrier, the wonderful, lovely Richard Carrier, who says if you don't agree with us, just get the fuck out. That's his perspective, and not agreeing with them, by the way. The things you've got to agree with, you've got to agree for the inclusion of a perspective that addresses racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, classism, ageism, neurotypicalism, animal welfare, environmental issues, political issues including healthcare, crime, drug laws, misogyny, rape culture, the reality of what life is like for women on the internet, etc, etc. There's a lot in there, and if you don't subscribe to it all, get the fuck out, is what Richard Carrier would say. He's a George Bush, it's a kind of left-wing George Bush, I would suggest. If you're not with him, you're against him. There's no kind of middle ground on any of this. But George Carrier is the master of the conflation. He talks constantly throughout his blogs about the atheist movement. The best that could be, if I was to give him the benefit of the doubt, was to just suggest that he thinks that his atheist movement that he's involved in, his little enclave, is the only atheist movement in the world, hence the atheist movement. But what it actually comes across is the first spinnings of this idea that atheism itself is a movement, that atheism is part of the atheist movement. I'm not happy with that. That's a really bad start, I think, to begin with. But I think this whole thing, it's not about just starting a movement, because, you know, I'm more than happy. People can start movements, whatever movement they want, whether they want it a political movement or a fucking bowel movement. I'm not bothered. You can have your movements, and you can include in that movement what, well, obviously, if it's a bowel movement, you can include whatever you want. It's going to include shit, isn't it? That's about it. But a political movement, you can include whatever you want. I don't mind. I might subscribe to it. I might not. A lot of these things in this movement I would subscribe to. There are some things that I have a problem with. I don't describe myself as a feminist. If I outlined my position to you, a lot of people would say, no, that comes under the remit of feminism. But there's a lot of feminists with some really, really outrageous ideas that I entirely rail against, that I wouldn't want to be bundled in with in a million years. So I'll tell you what, I'll do a separate video. What I'll do is I'll do a separate video on feminism to clear that one up. The same with social justice. There are some social justice aspects that I happily subscribe to. There are some that I don't. The idea of the redistribution of wealth. Yes, I agree that there needs to be some kind of progressive tax system, but the fact that 1% of the population own 90% of the wealth, I'm afraid is just hard shit. on us 99% of the population. It's just the way it is. I'm not really interested that 1% of the population own 99% of the wealth. I'm actually interested in the welfare of that other 99% of the population. If they're broadly doing okay, and if there are welfare support measures for those that aren't, I don't give a crap how rich the other 1% are. Good on them. Well done. Enjoy your money. You know, spend it on whatever the crap you like. I'm not really bothered, as long as you're not eating Komodo dragon steaks or something like that. So that's about it for that. I don't have a huge political disagreement with them. It's the co-opting of this term into their political movement that I'm not happy about. And if anybody is in any doubt that this is going on, let me read you a few quotes. This is from Jen McCrae, who stated, "It is time for a new wave of atheism, just like there were different waves of feminism." So she's equating atheism, which is just the statement, really, that you don't believe in God, that you disbelieve in God, or you lack a belief in God, with feminism, which is something which carries so much political baggage. But she's equating these two things. She clearly sees atheism as some kind of political movement. It's time for a wave that cares about how religion affects everyone and that applies skepticism to everything apart from itself, I would suggest. Here's another one that I've printed out. "I can't help but see social justice as a logical consequence of atheism." I think there's a lot of atheists that disagree with you there. I don't think Joseph Stalin quite saw it in that light, to be frank. But of course, if you see social justice as a logical consequence, then isn't that justifying self-justification for the politicisation of atheism, which is what I'm suggesting that these people are doing. I haven't printed it out, but I've seen comments where that people have talked specifically about redefining, that they're trying to redefine atheism. On one of the blogs there, the Atheist Experience blog, there's a guy there, not Richard Wagner. Richard Wagner's the composer, of course. What's his name? Martin. Is it Martin Wagner? Wagner? I don't. It's American, so maybe it's Wagner, like Robert Wagner. So let's go with Martin Wagner, who's off the Atheist Experience. And I commented to him, very polite guy, by the way. There was no nastiness on either side. Quite a pleasant exchange. I suggested to him that this is what is going on, that they're going to end up conflating these political ideals with atheism, the lack of belief in God. He didn't dispute that. In fact, more than not disputing it, he said, "Well, isn't that a good thing? Isn't that great that people think we're all nice people?" Well, maybe they will think we're nice people, but for God's sake, how many times on the Atheist Experience show must you have had somebody come on and make a comment about atheism? Well, atheism does this to me. Atheism leads you to this moral choice. Atheism leads you to that moral choice. And what do you have to do? In each case, you have to say, atheism makes no comment on morality. Where we draw our morals from isn't from our atheism, it is from other things. What are you going to say now? Actually, when we said that, we were talking shite. That was all lies when we said that. Actually, atheism does make a moral statement. Somebody else, in response on that thread to me, said, "Actually, I kind of understand your point, No Plum 99, and I'm kind of sorry for that, but you have to understand that this will raise our standing, that the people that think of us as immoral for being atheists will now think a lot better of us." I think that's bullshit. That's not going to work. The people who criticise you in the United States, which is largely what we're talking, are Christian right-wingers. And the things that you're espousing now, such as gay rights, are the kind of things that they think are totally immoral. So they're not going to think any better of you now than they did then. Yes, sure, you've got a moral position now, but it's all things that they think are absolutely immoral. You've not gained any kind of status in their eyes. Why you would want to in the first place anyway, I'm not sure. But anyway, the tack that I'm going on here is that these people are trying to redefine atheism. So I'm going to read you a piece. Just let me tell you a little story here. When I was a child, my father's really into all this kind of thing, and he was into this kind of skeptics movement, And I recall characters like Michael Schumer, James Randi, especially from when I was a child. I recall James Randi. and you'd see him on television and he'd be talking about things like UFOs or the paranormal or debunking this kind of thing. And that's what the skeptics movement was about. That's what it was about, you know. The word skeptic has a more general definition, but that wasn't what the skeptics movement. It's not like free thought blogs. You can't take their name literally. If you do, you're going to come totally unstuck. It's a subset. Free thought blogs is a very small subset of what free thought could consist of in totality, such as it was with the skeptics movement. So you would think if you went into the skeptics movement, those would be the kind of things you would do, wouldn't you? You wouldn't think you'd go into the skeptics movement not really giving a shit about those kind of things and then thinking, well, do you know what? I'm in this movement now and I couldn't give a crap about any of these things. I tell you what I'll do. I'll try and make the movement about a total load of different things. So let me read you from Natalie Reed's blog, who is another blogger here at Free Thought Blogs. She's talking about the skeptic movement. What I was or thought I was a skeptic. And what I cared about and was passionate enough about to become a part of all of this was skepticism. The skepticism I believed in wasn't about some little club for people to get together and tell each other how smart they all are for not believing in incredibly silly things like UFOs, Bigfoot, psychics, ghosts and the Loch Ness Monster. Nor was it even necessarily about activism focused on address dangerous information and charlatanism like alternative medicine, blah 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 blah. I saw in skepticism a great deal of potential too. It was a community that had until recently been very much based in the hard sciences and in addressing the more objectively falsifiable beliefs that people held like cryptids, UFOs, alt-med and paranormal phenomena. But I saw absolutely no reason that skepticism couldn't be compatible with the social justice issues I also cared about, like feminism, misogyny, sexism, cis-sexism, gender binarism, racism, ableism. These things didn't seem meaningfully different to me from pseudoscience, new age, woo, religious faith, occultism or the paranormal. Do you know, this suggests to me that this Natalie Reed has gone in to this skeptics. It was a nice little club for people. They knew what they liked, you know. It was like a golf club. And everybody in the golf club kind of likes playing golf. And then she strode in and thought, what the fuck? I'm not interested in any of this shit. This isn't what I'm interested in. Let's make this club. It's like you go into a golf club, you don't like golf, so you say, I tell you what, let's stop playing golf. Let's start playing tennis. Because kind of, I think golf's a bit silly really. It's just smashing a ball round a load of fields. Tennis is a much better game. Let's start playing tennis. When I was a kid, there was no kind of political aspect to the skeptics kind of organisations, the skeptic movement. It was about UFOs and stuff like that. If you didn't like it, stay away from it. Maybe it's a bit nerdy, maybe it's all a little bit shit, but that's what it was about. I can't understand why anybody would go into it and then say, well, I think this should be about political issues. Why would somebody say that? Because they're a political animal. This is what I see. Every time I see the skeptic sort of societies now, or the skeptic movement, it doesn't seem to be about these things it used to be about. It's about social issues. It's about political issues. It's like a load of people that weren't really interested in the kind of thing that skeptic movement was interested in have got into it, but they're really political animals. And so what they've done is they've just trashed it and redefined it and made it what they want it to be, not what it actually was. Okay, so that's happened. That's a lost cause, and quite honestly, I was never part of that anyway, so I couldn't really give that much of a crap about it. But I do regard myself as an atheist, and for 34 years of my life I've identified as an atheist, and I've been able to do that without a whole load of political baggage that I've got to explain away, and that's why I'm able to use that label. I'm not able to use the label feminist, even though perhaps what I believe would fit into part of feminism, because too many people have hung too much crap on that term for me to be able to do that. But I can still use the word atheist. Do you know what I see here? These same political animals, these same people over at Free Thought Blogs, they don't really give a crap about skepticism and atheism. What they give a crap about, as all political animals do, is their political positioning. It's their political ideologies that they're really bothered about. Natalie Reed admits it. She wasn't really that bothered about atheism. She wasn't really that bothered about skepticism. She's actually more bothered about feminism, women's rights, trans rights, all these other things. Fine, worthy causes, no problem with that. What I see is these same political animals are now trying to do the same thing again. They've hijacked the skeptics term. Now they want to hijack atheism and conflate the term atheism with all these political ideologies. I don't give a crap how worthy some of these ideologies are. They have nothing to do with atheism. You know, I have seen some people say that it results from atheism because we've evolved a sense of empathy and that leads us to these things, but the universe can have a creator and we could still have evolved that sense of empathy, and the universe could not have a creator and a group of sentient agents could evolve without a sense of empathy. So that's just it's about as ridiculous an argument as you could make. In fact, just about any argument that you make, that all these different things, such as the existence of a rape culture and an opposition to it, that somehow result from atheism is bizarre in the extreme. I will oppose this for as long as I call myself an atheist, and I will call myself an atheist for as long as I can. The time when I'll stop calling myself an atheist is if these bastards have won and they've managed to so conflate the term atheism with their political ideologies that I cannot anymore call myself an atheist without people drawing political implications by me doing so. I really hope it doesn't get to that. I'm scared it's going to. That's why I oppose this Atheism Plus movement. And on that note, I want to make a request. These people are political animals. They have the bit between their teeth on this thing, and I don't think they're going to let this go easily. So I don't think, if this is something that you agree with me about, if you do, that they're conflating these things, that it's going to cause problems that we can do without, then what I would ask is that you don't just leave a comment and say, yeah, I agree with you, Jim. Do whatever you can. If you make videos, make a video detailing your point. Let's see what the strength of feeling is for this. If the strength of feeling is so strong in favour of this Atheism Plus, then I will have to just cede defeat and stop calling myself an atheist. That's probably the best thing that I could do. I'll still make videos on YouTube. I'll still make the arguments that I make. I'll just have to disown this term that I've happily been able to use for the last 34 years. Little bit wound up about that. If you feel the way I do about this, please get involved, say something, because these people will say something and are saying something. Thank you for watching this video, and bye for now.